Good morning everyone, welcome to the stream. I hope you're all doing okay today and that you are ready for some more The House in Fata Morgana. Good morning Quill, welcome. So last time we got the 3 keys that we needed to open the observation tower door. Not without a bit of struggle, especially from Mel's side. That little snake is all I can say. And we also got to start exploring Morgana's past. Poor girl, she was born as the daughter of God, with miraculous healing blood, and then was sold off as a slave to a lord far, far away, who held basically blood sabbaths with her blood to like feed his guests. And we just left when he swung down his sword on her because something had happened to her face and he called her a witch. Good morning Dudor, welcome. And that's where we left off. She's trying to basically show her story to Michel so that he can feel her pain and sympathize with her. Yeah, and we are not done yet with her story. It's quite a bit left of it actually, so yeah, it's gonna be dark today, that's for sure. And also there will be a lot of reading for me. I mean, it's always a lot of reading, but especially Morgana's story is told in such a way, it's very, very text heavy, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I have a big glass of water with me, so hopefully it will go fine. So yeah, I say we just jump right into it. Morgana is going Tidos on us. This is my story. Yeah, but in her case it's actually it's actually true. Whereas Tidos is just I don't know. I don't agree. It's Yuna's story, not Tidos, but yeah. But this is definitely Morgana's story. In a way, and Michelle's story, and Giselle's, it's all of their story, but right now we are focusing on Morgana. Hooray for darkness! Yeah, we love it here. Darkness is the best. Alright, gonna make sure I have some sound as well. There, I think it's okay on my end, and tell me if it's too loud or too quiet on your end as well. Without warning, without any time to prepare, the darkness drains away. And a second later, I crash into the stairs, hard. Right at my ear, I can hear the s of the river of blood. The world fades in and out of view, giving way to very real images of a past I never lived. I can practically feel the fire in the eyes of that mad blood banquet's guests. My vision distorts. I can't regain my focus. Hello, Kirk! Welcome! Welcome! Whose blood is streaming down the stairs? Is it hers? Is it mine? Who am I? A saint? A witch? Is what I'm seeing, through a lens of clarity, or madness? Wait, no. No. I am not her. I am Michelle, no one else. It hurts, doesn't it? It's hard to breathe. Your chest is on fire, your vision is blurry. It's dark, it's lonely, it's scary. It's frustrating, it's disheartening, it's exasperating, isn't it? What you're feeling, it's exactly the pain I felt. I reach my hand out in a plea for help, which is when I see something I can hardly believe. Ooh. Both of my arms are covered in gashes, blood flowing from them without end. The raw flesh beneath my skin has been exposed to the open air. Ah! All I can bring myself to do is scream. That pain, her horrible past, is doing everything in its power to break me. That 9-year-old girl's sickening experiences are twisting and constricting and crushing me. Why is this happening to you? Are you really that slow, my dear? You're empathizing with my pain. You're just that kind-hearted, Michelle. You said you wouldn't give up, didn't you? That you would make your way to me. Then surely this won't be enough to do you in. Of course it won't. Mustering up every last bit of strength I can, I begin crawling up the stairs. The red river beats against my open wounds, stinging painfully. I remember you describing Morgana as an upset cat. I'm seeing it more and more already. Cat that learned gaslighting? Yeah. Yeah, I feel like she really is sort of like a pissed off cat in a way. And a master gaslighter for sure, definitely. The simple act of lifting an arm or a leg is almost unbearably agonizing. The blood dripping from my lacerated arms mixes with the blood already soaking the tower. So this is the pain Morgana suffered. Do you despise everyone, Morgana? Did your resentment at your mother's betrayal, at the people who came seeking your blood, at the lord who took your life, turn into a hatred for all mankind? Your perception of me is still incorrect, Michelle. My grudge is only against a selected few. Think about it, my dear. Of the thousands, millions, billions of people living on this planet, my world is comprised of but a minuscule fraction of that. Hatred for all mankind? No, what I feel is not nearly so nebulous. Although, if I had died still believing I was a saint, maybe I wouldn't have such a well-defined mission. Are you saying the Lord didn't kill you? Oh my, did you actually think that was the end of my tale? Despite all your big talk, you're afraid of having to suffer through any more of that, aren't you? But you're the one who said you wouldn't give in. So go on. Know my pain. Without losing your mind. Ugh. Once again, my surroundings crumble. I have no say. I have no chance to object before I'm dragged back to that repulsive banquet. I reach out, stretching my hand as far as it will reach, but all I can grab is darkness. My bloody body sinks back into the abyss. The pain becomes more than just a memory, eroding away at my consciousness. Gonna drink some water to prepare. You're a damn witch wearing a saint's skin. Maybe if I had died then, I wouldn't have become the witch you know now. But that's all conjecture. Theorizing about what could have happened is an exercise in futility. But no, I did not die that day. Brought together by constant mistreatment, the Lord's slaves chose that moment to start a revolt. When he swung down his blade, someone bumped into him, and it was knocked off its course. I didn't have the strength to get to my feet, so I simply watched the chaos unfold before my hazy eyes. It never even occurred to me that I should try to escape. At some point during the riot, a young man, one of the slaves, grabbed me by my bloody limp arm and led me out of the Lord's manor. The young man brought me to a slum, a place where the people banded together in their hardship, barely scraping together enough to eat every day, let alone paying the taxes demanded of them. By the time we had arrived at a small brothel, located a ways into the slum, the fog was starting to clear from my mind. I knew where we were, and feeling the gazes of those scantily clothed women, I trembled. In a sense, that was possibly the most frightened I had ever been in my life, despite everything else I had been through. The idea that I had fallen so far I would have to become a prostitute scared me to death. After all, I was a saint, and saints were supposed to retain their purity. Spreading my legs for any man who gave me enough coins would shatter my very identity. As all that was going through my mind, I probably shouted "No!" in protest, because the slave gave me an exasperated look and told me he hadn't brought me here to become a prostitute. He said he knew someone here, someone I could trust, and that she would give me a room. I had trouble believing him though. I couldn't trust the word of a prostitute, someone who valued money more than her own body. It was all a trap, I was sure. One day they would tell me I had to work. Nothing he said would convince me otherwise. Apparently, sensing my mistrust, the slave gave me an apologetic frown and handed me a mirror saying, "Even if I did, you couldn't get any work looking like that." I could not believe what I saw. That couldn't be my face. It had to be an illusion. There was no way. That was not the face of a saint. It couldn't be. It wasn't real. It wasn't possible. Patches of skin had fallen off my face, exposing the raw red flesh beneath. It looked quite similar to what had been done to my arms and legs, except my face had never been cut before. Looking at myself in a mirror, even I doubted my own sainthood. The thing in my reflection was a hellish abomination. It was a twisted face of a witch. And although I was shocked by what I saw, at the same time, it answered several lingering questions. It explained why the Lord and his guests had panicked at the sight of me. And it also explained why he had said I was a witch wearing a saint's skin. Over the course of the dozens of banquets I had participated in, my face must have mutated, twisted into this ugly, sickening, monstrous thing. The sight of what I had become sapped the last bit of willpower from me. Not because I was particularly fond of my face or thought myself especially beautiful, but because it had crushed me to see everything saintly about me crumble away. Test from God or otherwise, I didn't have the strength left to attempt to overcome it. Deciding I would rather be dead than struggle any longer, I begged the slave to kill me. Taking one's own life was a sin. If I did that, I would not be able to return to my father's side, and I wanted to ask him why I had been put through such tribulation. But the young man refused. He said, completely missing my intention, that if I persevered, good fortune would eventually find me. He said that if I lived on, I would eventually have a chance to get my payback. I had no such worldly concerns though, but if no one would take my life, I had no choice but to live. I despised the life at the brothel. The men who came to buy their services were disgusting buffoons, the kind of people who would think they could deceive God. And the women fawning over them were just as repulsive. That said, I had nowhere else to go, which meant I was forced to suffer that sickening place. But by the time a year or so had passed, my feelings about it had changed. The women of the brothel took good care of me, treating me like a sister. At first, it was just irritating. I was a saint, and how could a saint have prostitutes for sisters? But over time, I got to know them better, grew to appreciate their circumstances and hardships. Despite barely having enough money to keep food on the table, whenever they had a little to spare, they would use it to purchase medicine, ointments to apply to my arms, legs, and face. And as a result of the generosity, my arms and legs started looking almost human, but nothing had any effect on my face. Occasionally, the slave would drop in to check on me. The other men thought me ghastly and wouldn't get anywhere near me, but he was different. And every time he visited, he would say, "One day I'll show you the world." I love that. I love that. If you know, you know. And to tell you the truth, I was beginning to grow attached to it all. my time at the Brother was probably, all things considered, one of the brighter chapters of my life. There, I was neither a saint nor a witch, but an ordinary human girl. It's so sad, really, that she has to even think like that, like, I was neither a saint nor a witch, but an ordinary human girl. I mean, that's what she always was. She was never like this otherworldly creature. She's just a little girl, and it's just so tragic, her story. Like, it's insane. For the first time, I felt like my life had meaning beyond my assumed divine purpose. I was even beginning to feel kind of happy. And with each passing day, my intractable worldview was gaining a little flexibility. Perhaps I could perform miracles, but that didn't necessarily mean I had to be the daughter of God or a saint. Maybe I was just a regular person who happened to possess some unusual abilities. Ridiculous, isn't it? Despite coming to accept my humanity, I refused to let go of my miraculous powers. They were the last thing protecting what I thought of as myself. But to me at the time, it felt like a very dramatic change of heart. 3 years after the revolt at the Lord's Manor, I had my 12th birthday, for which they threw me a little dinner party. The women all pitched in to bake me treats, and a young slave man was there too. I was happy. I thought that if life could continue on like this, I was fine with not going back to being a saint. But for some reason, happiness always seemed to slip away as soon as you've got your hands around it. No one sincerely wants to lose it, so why must they? I certainly didn't mind not being miserable. Let me tell you what happened that night. On the night of my birthday celebration, bandits attacked the brothel. Now, bandits were hardly a rarity in that time, so everyone was always on the lookout, and we never went out at night. They wouldn't stop at robbing you either. They were armed with blades and would frequently kill their targets if necessary. But cautious as we were helpless against a direct raid. The brother fell into a panic, screams echoing in the night. The customers were carved up and left for dead. The women were bound and stowed away to be sold. My peaceful world shattered in an instant. And the next thing I knew, I was some slave trader's merchandise. I don't know what became of the prostitutes who cared for me, or the slave who brought me to them. I assumed the women were sold, and a young man slaughtered. But regardless, I found myself being rocked around in the back of a carriage once more. The carriage was packed so tight you could barely see the floor, and it smelled like death. Sweat, urine, feces, every foul odor imaginable compressed into a tiny space. There were both men and women there, nearly all of them muttering and groaning or weeping. Everyone was young, ripe to be put to work. It didn't take me long to realize what fate awaited these people, and me. And when I did, I just sat there in silence. Then, for the first time, I cried. I was experiencing, I believe, a very human emotion. I was sad. Hurt that I had been taken away from a place where I was happy. From the women at the brothel, and that young man. It crushed me. And no longer did I wonder why such a thing was happening to the holy daughter of God. Something about my tears must have seemed strange to him, because one man saw me and said, "Why are you crying?" He was a curious man. To start, he looked very different from anyone else. The color of his skin, the length of his nose, the shape of his eyes. Everything about him was new and unusual. Hesitantly, I replied, "I'm sad because I didn't get the chance to show my gratitude to people very dear to me." The man fell silent, looking as though he was deep in thought. I had no idea why he had asked me that, but something about him made me uncomfortable, so I couldn't bring myself to ask. Several hours later, the man suddenly stood up. The guards had no patience for anyone stepping out of line, and it didn't look like they would hesitate to kill us either. So unsurprisingly, one at the back of the carriage drew his sword and pointed it at the man. What was surprising, though, was what happened next. The man, his hands shackled like the rest of us, leapt for the guard, slamming his fist into his face, stealing his sword. The entire carriage was in shock. The guards were too stunned to effectively react, so they were quickly cut down. And because the one-man uprising had taken place between cities, there was no one the slave traders could ask for help before they were slaughtered. In the blink of an eye, it was all over, and there was nothing human about what I had witnessed. If I had to describe it, I would say it was as though a wild beast had attacked. The man ruffled through the slave trader's clothes until he found the keys, which he brought to me, ordering I unshackle him. And so I did as he commanded. Once they had enough time to process what had happened, the would-be slaves applauded. Their wretched souls had been saved. And for a moment, I believed so too. When the man's hands were free, he rolled his shoulders a couple of times, made sure everything was in place, and then he began his massacre. Screams of agony filled the carriage as he ran his sword through the helpless men and women packed inside it. Blood and guts were splattered against every surface, and those who tried to escape did not get far before being mercilessly skewered. It was like a scene out of a nightmare. I was frozen in place, not out of fear, but because my mind had shut down. I couldn't make sense of what was happening, so my mind rejected it. And with my brain having given up, my body was no more than a lifeless puppet. In short order, all the slaves were dead, and I was sitting in a pool of blood staring at the man. He pointed his blade at me, and with a little smirk he said, "Why didn't you run?" In turn I asked him, "Why did you kill them?" The smile vanished from his face, and after a few quiet moments of pondering he replied, "Because I felt like it." "And why haven't you killed me yet?" I asked. To which he gave a curt, "I don't know," and then withdrew his blade and wandered off into the distance. And then I was all alone, surrounded by corpses. I glanced down, and half of someone's face was looking back up at me. Oh my goodness. Yukimasa, lovely as always. I mean, you guys didn't think it was someone else, I hope, because I don't want to spoil you, but I think that one was kind of obvious. Wrapped in absolute darkness, warm blood spills onto my cheeks, my hair, my skin. Chunks of human flesh rain down on me. Make it stop! Pitter patter, pitter patter. There's no end to the deluge. The smell of death fills the air. I'm struck with a wave of nausea, so strong I can't hold back the contents of my stomach. But when my mouth opens to vomit, blood pours into it. Let go of me! Dead bodies grab at my ankles, dragging me down. To where? Hell? Or to the mountain of corpses? Now do you understand that there was a time, if but briefly, when I was happy, when I felt human emotions? But I wish I never had. If I had remained confined in my daughter of God shell, then I doubt I would have felt so much terror at the sight of death. I can't say anything in response. I can't form words. I feel what she experienced, the massacre she witnessed, the limp flesh piling up around her. Even more than twice her age, it's enough to drive me mad. The fact that a 12-year-old girl had to experience something so unspeakable devastates me. Tell me, my dear, do you pity me? Do you sympathize with me? If you feel bad for me, then you'll remain with me. You'll feel my pain and my despair with me. Won't you? The witch's cackle echoes through the pile of bodies. There's not a speck of light. and hideous death lingers everywhere. Helpless to resist, I'm dragged down into a deep, dark ocean, an ocean of blood. Now, on with the story. I was at a complete loss for some time after that. I didn't want to return to the city, because I knew there was no one left who would take me in. There was only the Lord, who had bound me and drained me of my blood. So I wandered the roads, no destination in mind, and nothing to defend myself but the clothes on my back. Frankly, I'm rather surprised I wasn't attacked by bandits. After walking for days without food or water, my mind was hazy and my exhaustion at a peak. In the distance I saw a lake. So driven by my thirst, I turned my unsteady feet toward the water, not caring that it took me off the main road. And it turned out that was the correct choice, because there was a small cottage beside the lake. Smoke rising from the chimney, telling me it wasn't abandoned. Out of sheer desperation, I knocked on the door. No one answered. The door was unlocked, so I slowly, hesitantly pushed it open. And beyond it, I found an old woman sitting dead in a chair. The woman was a witch. By trade, that is. It appeared she had a deep knowledge of medicinal herbs, using it to make an assortment of medicines. In her cabinets were dozens of small glass bottles containing dried, powdered leaves and crushed berries, among other things. On the fire was a cauldron, liquid bubbling inside. The woman looked as though she was asleep. Presumably, she had passed away of old age, for there was no sign bandits had been rooting through the cottage, and she had a look of absolute serenity on her face. Looking over at the woman's dead body, I didn't cross myself. I envied her. Dragging the woman's body by her feet, I dumped her into the lake. Do you think doing so makes me a bad person? Makes me unsaintly? Well, I didn't have anywhere else to go, and the owner of the cozy cottage was no longer of this world. There was no reason I couldn't fill the home in her stead, was there? I deserved to have somewhere I felt comfortable after everything I'd been through, didn't I? And so, I took up residence in the old witch's cottage, and remained there until my 16th year. By 16, a terrible cynicism had taken root in my heart. I had no trust for people. I shut them out, building high walls around myself. After such a tumultuous, bloody childhood, it was all I could do to protect myself, to keep my young spirit from cracking. Nevertheless, travelers would, on occasion, pay the old witch's cottage a visit, seeking her medicines. You wonder why? Yeah, she has had a heck of a life, my goodness. Whenever someone arrived, I would cautiously crack the door open, telling them they could trade for whatever they wanted with food and never showing my face. One day a young man showed up at the cottage. My sister has fallen very ill and she desperately needs medicine. He was very soft-spoken. There was a distinct kindness in his voice, which I thought unusual, curious. What kind of person could he be? What did he look like? What expressions did he make as he spoke? To satisfy that curiosity, I snuck a peek at him through the crack in the door. He was a handsome young man with flowing flaxen hair, and upon seeing me, he didn't flinch back in disgust. He smiled. According to him, his younger sister had fallen gravely ill, and though they had tried a number of remedies, she was still bedridden. The medicines I gave him, too, had no effect, but he persisted in his quest, visiting me again and again for new combinations to try. He wanted nothing more than to relieve even the slightest bit of his sister's suffering. And, moved by his dedication to his family, I too wanted to do anything I could to help. For the first time in years, my world encompassed more than my small cottage. When the young man came, he would ask not only for medicine, but to go on walks with me. He volunteered to spend time with me, despite my horrifying appearance. It's not healthy to stay holed up inside all the time. You got this beautiful lake right here. What do you say we take a little walk around the shoreline? he said with a smile, taking me by the hand. We spoke as we circled the lakeside. His voice was always soft and pleasant, like a ray of light shining through a crack in the walls. When I was with him, I felt like I could be an actual person, an ordinary girl. He talked about his sister more than anything, and whenever he did, he was at his brightest and most melancholy. The young man had been a member of a noble house, but disputes over who was the rightful heir had forced him and his sister out. Shortly after that, his sister had fallen ill and was now bedridden. I'll take anything at this point to make her better. I'll even take a miracle if I can get one. That word, muttered beneath his breath, sparked my memory. I was a saint. My blood had healing properties. I had no reason to hesitate. Someone needed my help, and who deserved it more than this kind-hearted young man's sister? So I decided to tell him what I really was, that my blood had miraculous powers, that it had saved people. That the moment I had been born, the drought plaguing my village had come to an end, that I had been known as a saint, the daughter of God. I told him everything, and he believed it all. He led me to his house, where a pale, sickly young girl lay in bed. She was a sweet little girl, with the same flaxen hair as her brother, who looked like she would have been quite spirited if not for her ailment. It was touching to see the two siblings sitting there together, quietly holding each other. I would gladly give my blood for the two of them. And so I made a new cut on my arm, which had healed considerably thanks to the slave and the woman of the brothel, and let the girl drink of my blood. Neither of them had any doubts about my sainthood, and because they believed, a miracle occurred. The flaxen-haired girl recovered enough to get out of her bed. I was extremely proud of myself. I felt like for once I had actually saved someone's life. The only issue was, she didn't make a complete recovery. For a few days after drinking my blood, she was in good health, but her condition quickly regressed. I was deeply perplexed by this. A miracle had undoubtedly taken place, but it was only temporary. Now, I believe that I can explain what happened. Her recovery was nothing more than a placebo effect caused by her faith. But that's something I couldn't have known at the time. We were all three perplexed, and we were all three disheartened. Nevertheless, I was prepared to give her my blood as many times as needed. Whenever her condition worsened, the young man came to request more, and never once did I turn him away. On the contrary, I enthusiastically offered her my services. Over time, though, the hope in his eyes began to fade. He asked me on fewer walks, and he seemed hesitant to look me in the eye. I think she might just be a vampire they need to eat too. Maybe. That would be quite a twist, Nelly being a vampire. I assume it was out of discomfort, out of guilt, out of shame about asking for blood. But I don't think his concerns were for me, rather himself and his sister. As I mentioned earlier, blood was considered unclean in our time, and not only was I giving mine away, I was having his sister imbibe it. Looking at it that way, it would hardly be a surprise for him, or anyone else, to think what I was doing depraved. As time passed, the flaxen-haired young man seemed to grow more and more disturbed by me. That was what I got for opening up. That was what I got for letting his kind, warm light shine in on me. The moment things went bad, he pulled away. There were times when I thought I shouldn't have done anything in the first place, but regardless, I held fast to my original decision. I would put myself on the line for them. No one else. Just them. Even if he was afraid of me, or had no interest in seeing me, I would continue offering her my blood. And I was firm in my resolve. Really, Morgana is so sweet. I mean, she's so cynical and once again, she's telling this with so little emotion, but she really was a sweet girl. Like, it's so sad, all this. I hate it. It really hurts. She shouldn't have had to go through any of all these things. Like, She's 16. She's a baby. Seriously. One day though, I received a new visitor. The young man was still the only one I would show my face to, the only guest I had let into my walls. So, as usual, I took the man's request from behind the cottage door. "Hi Fenrir, welcome!" But I could hardly believe my ears when I began speaking. "Are you the witch with the miracle blood?" First, how did he know my blood had powers? Second, why had he called me a witch and not a saint? Third, why did he sound like the man who had slaughtered the slave carriage? I told the man he had to leave, that I would not be opening the door for any reason. In response he said, "I am in need of your blood. Could you not spare me a little?" My blood was for the sick and needy. I would never spare a drop for a murderer like him. And I told the man exactly that, demanding he leave. All I could think about was the pile of bodies, the fountain of blood. The man drenched in crimson, wearing a ghastly smirk. I trembled behind the door, fearing he may go on another such rampage. But instead he gave a simple, "As you say," and went on his way. I let out a deep sigh of relief, which is when I realized tears were rolling down both of my cheeks. Yukimasa needs her blood dripping down his sword? Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't be wrong in thinking that. He is not to be trusted, that's for sure. He's a scary, scary man. Like an ordinary girl. 3 days later, the flaxen-haired boy showed up at my cottage. "I'm sorry for being so distant lately. I want to talk things over." Those two sentences were like a light shining from above. I wanted to talk to him too. I wanted to take a walk around the lake and listen to him talk about nothing. I wanted to experience the warmth of his world once more. And I wanted to tell him about the terrible man who had been there a few days earlier. About how scared I had been. I wanted him to tell me it would be alright. "I want to talk to you too," I said, opening the door without a second thought. The light of the sun was so bright all I could make out was his silhouette. I couldn't see the look on his face or the look in his eyes. A gentle breeze blew past, and my mind froze. How could this be happening? What did it mean? Why? How? What was that man doing, standing behind him? Why was he carrying a sword? At least his scariness is predictable. Yeah, you know that he is scary, so you don't even have to doubt it. With the other ones, it's a bit more sneaky. Why was he coming into my house? And why did he swing it down, severing my arm? I was in a daze. I couldn't make sense of anything. I didn't want to. My left arm fell to the floor before I even knew what was happening, and then my legs gave out. The pain, searing and unbearable, came a few moments later, as I was lying in an ever-expanding pool of my own blood. I did something then that I hadn't done before, that I had resisted doing no matter how much blood the Lord had stolen from me. I screamed. It was a hideous, visceral noise, a sound I had never thought a saint could make. The same ear-splitting howl the slaves had made as the man had butchered them. I writhed, I wailed, I wept. I crawled across the floor for my own blood. I begged and I begged and I begged for my life. The man walked over and picked up my severed arm, and then, shockingly, he tossed it to the kind-hearted young man. After which he said, "That is your share. Should last you long enough." Share? What did he mean by share? What was he talking about? Why had he given him my arm? And why had he taken it? Why was he talking like they knew each other? Why? Why? I had spared blood for him when he had asked, hadn't I? So why was he doing this? Was cutting my arm off and stealing it easier on his conscience than simply asking? You understand how I felt, don't you? You can put yourself in my shoes, can't you? The young man refused to look me in the eye. Holding my bloody arm in his trembling hands, he fled from the cottage as quickly as his leg would allow. The man then walked over and picked me up. I had neither the strength nor willpower to resist. Holding me in his arms, he began to speak, telling me things I didn't want to know, things I didn't want to hear. But he didn't care. Nothing personal, I just need your blood. Without it, she'll lose her church. Don't take it personally? Tell me, is there anyone in this world who wouldn't feel a bit of spite after being put through such torture? How was I supposed to let that slide? No one's that much of a saint. My trust had been betrayed, and I was supposed to turn the other cheek? A man had barged into my home uninvited and cut off my arm, and I was supposed to smile and take it? Is there anyone, anywhere, who doesn't feel even the slightest bit of hatred ever? Is there anyone in this world who could just laugh and brush off this level of abuse? Tell me, is there? How could I not hold a grudge? How could I not despise them? How could I possibly forgive them? Tell me, please. Tell me, how could I? She needs the money. I needed some way of getting enough money to keep a church running. So the Lord made me an offer. If I brought him the witch with the miracle blood, he would finance a whole new church for her. The Lord? Why him again? Why couldn't he leave me alone? After trying to kill me during one of his blood Sabbaths, why was he after my blood once more? Had he learned it really did have miraculous powers and decided he wanted me back? You get to be the sacrifice. To keep her church from collapsing. To keep her world from collapsing. Sacrifice? Excuse me, what? And what's all this about keeping her church from collapsing? You murdered a carriage full of innocent people, and you're trying to protect the church? You? Are you out of your mind? Churches are where people go to commune with God, to speak with my Father. How dare you soil those sanctified grounds with your filthy hands, you beast? It's insulting, sacrilegious, repulsive. Just what do you think we are? So don't take it personally, witch. I'm not a witch. I'm a saint. I was a saint. My blood exists to do the Lord's work, not to satisfy the avarice of men. Why is this happening to me? The man brought me back to the city, but instead of taking me to the Lord's manor, he brought me to a church on the city's outskirts. Though, to be honest, it looked more like an estate than a church. The church also served as a hospital, offering free care to less fortunate children, the poor and the infirm. That was when I learned why he had said they needed money. The owner of the church offered unconditional assistance to anyone who came. Even when food and supplies ran low, they would ration their own in order to keep helping others. As a result, the church was perpetually on the verge of collapse. The church was run by a woman, something exceedingly rare for the time. There were no priests, all medicines were handled by a single nun, who everyone referred to as the saintess. I was a saint. Why was this woman, who didn't have the ability to perform miracles, being worshipped like she did? Why did the people of the city idolize her? Why were their smiles all directed at her? Why? Was I not in her place? The man carried me to the top of the observation tower. It was there that I had my reunion with the Lord. I was to spill my blood for the people of the city, but also for the Lord's profit. It was not offering free aid, but selling it as medicine. He claimed it was a miracle elixir, telling no one that it was actually my blood. It was mixed with a beautiful red wine, and drinking it would cure you of any ailment. If they knew it was actually the blood of a witch, they would think it unclean. They would fear it. prison for a long, long time. In the beginning, the swordsman guarded me. Though before long, the flaxen-haired young man showed up as well. Presumably one severed arm wasn't enough to keep his sister healthy for long. In listening to their conversations, I learned that, to ensure no one else could get in, the observation tower was sealed with 3 locks. The Lord, the swordsman, and the young man each held one of the keys. I was their secret, locked away in the tower for them to drain of blood away from wandering eyes. Time went on, and I grew progressively weaker. I lost the will to eat, and the will to live. My only view from the tower was the clouds through a window high up on the wall. Occasionally a pigeon would flow in. Sometimes a butterfly, and I would glare in envy as it fluttered around, free to come and go as it pleased. And soon it was spring. You're glad you sensed that the 3 featured in the Morgana song tale? Yeah. Every spring the church held a festival to pray for the coming year's harvest and the people's well-being. I could hear the bustle from far below through the window as everyone rushed to prepare. I heard the flaxen-haired girl's voice, who had regained her health drinking my blood. I heard her brother's voice, who had betrayed me. I heard the nun's voice, who played saint in my stead. I heard the barbaric swordsman's voice, who had chopped off my arm. And I heard the Lord's voice, the root of all my suffering. I heard people praising the saintess, though I, the true saint, was locked in the tower. I heard people thanking the Lord for his generous donations and miracle medicine, though it had all come from me. Propped up on my suffering, they cheered and clinked glasses on my bloody wine. Those merry, peaceful, cheerful, spirited sinners' voices resounded in my tower. And at noon on the day of the festival, the church bell tolled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and with the 12th chime, I died. As the bell's last pealing faded into silence, the tower door swung open. Standing on the other side of it were the 3 men. They must have wanted to drain a little more from me to use in the feast, but they arrived at the worst possible moment. Also, Dalen says hi, but like me earlier, and maybe by my own suggestion, isn't watching live as he intends to catch up. Okay, that's lovely. That is lovely. Tell him hi from me as well. The flaxen-haired young man was the first to express his consternation. Why? I never wanted her to die. Was she not eating? Also, need to speak for a bit. Do you remember the first door? The dream that Mel had? He had a sort of nightmare, and these exact words were spoken, and there were 3 men. This is what the dream was about. We were getting a glimpse into Morgana's past through Mel's dream. I think that is really cool. We had no idea what it was about in the first door, but now it's coming full circle. The Lord gave my corpse a casual glance and said stone-faced, "Seal the tower off. Understood? No one finds out about this." How can you be so calm? Do you understand what you've done? Ha! Pinning the blame on me? How nice it must be to be able to distort reality with panic. The swordsman, who had been silently observing the Lord and the boy conversing, interjected. You're just as guilty as any of us. Not only did they not mourn my death, they argued over whose fault it was. There was no regret, no remorse. The young man muttered absent-mindedly, I never wanted her to die. What did his intentions matter, though? It was his betrayal that had ultimately tethered me to this mansion. But the fact that they didn't grieve my death, and instead squabbled amongst themselves like filthy rats, was the final straw. How could I not despise them? I don't believe I actually had the power to perform miracles when I was alive. It was all faith, the illusion of belief. I was neither a saint nor a witch. The blood wine was only effective because people placed their faith in the other saintess. I was only ever human. But then, in that moment, an actual miracle occurred. My father bestowed upon me his power. Or perhaps it was the devil who lent me his strength. I was looking down upon my own dead body, my own wretched self. There was nothing beautiful about the pile of bones I had become. I could almost smell the rotting flesh. That was once a saint? I laughed at the thought. It was absurd, ridiculous, and infuriating. They would pay. Those who had cast me into this hell, who had mocked me, who had done this to me, who had made a witch out of me. Hatred coursed through me, revulsion at everyone on this ground still smiling. They would know just whose dead shoulders their little party was resting upon. If they wanted so badly to call me a witch, then a witch I would be. I would kill them, every last one of them, place a curse on their souls. And so I made my wish. Most people might consider it a curse, but to me, it was most certainly a wish. And my father, or maybe the devil, granted me that wish. From the garden, there rose a scream. The flaxen-haired young man knew that voice better than anyone. He went deathly pale, darting down the spiral staircase until he reached a window. A young girl was on her knees, vomiting blood in the grass. The young man let out a yelp as he descended the remainder of the staircase. As soon as he reached the garden, he lifted the girl in his arms, but she had already perished. You're glad to see the linking of door 1 to this tale? Yeah, me too. And would you rather be granted the powers of God or the strength of the devil? I don't know. I feel like the devil is probably more dangerous, I would feel. So probably the power of God, I would say. I mean, I'm not really religious myself, but I feel like God is a safer bet, because I feel like he would more perhaps look after me with that power, whereas the devil might give me a power for a cost or something like that, or with bigger consequences. So probably the power of God. How about you? Realizing this, he cried to the heavens, saying the one thing he should have kept to himself. The witch killed her. The blood of the witch killed my sister. That wine you're drinking is no medicine. It's the blood of the witch. You're all drinking witch blood. Crushed by the loss of his only family, the young man picked up a silver fork and plunged it into his own throat, ending his life. Naturally, there was an uproar. Goblets of wine crashed against the earth in rapid succession, as the people holding them fell to the ground and vomited or convulsed. The nun was the first target of the outrage. What she had claimed to be medicine had turned out to be blood, an unclean substance, the blood of a witch, no less. A servant of the church, a servant of the Lord, had given her followers blood to drink, and at this, their indignation surged uncontrollably. The people surrounded her, tying her up and throwing her to the ground. As they prepared to inflict righteous justice upon her, the swordsman soared down the stairs and into the garden, plunging his blade into anyone standing near the nun. The cries of agony ringing through the church grounds were ear-splitting. It was no longer a place of God, but hell on earth. You think the power of God comes with more conditions? Maybe, I don't know. I really don't know, actually. I would want my own powers. Maybe a radioactive spider or something. That feels safer. You sooner side with the devil. The only reason you started to consider yourself pagan, but the stronger reason is that you feel God in the traditional sense is cold and capricious. Yeah. I do agree with that. That's why I think I would probably not really want either of their power. I would probably want like something else, to be honest. The devil only wants your soul, while God probably wants you to be good and boring. Well, I think I am kind of good and boring though, to be honest. Maybe not that good and boring, but I'm a goody two-shoes, really. Vampiric powers, yes. Vampiric powers are the best powers, absolutely. That is the perfect powers for me. Live forever, don't have to eat anything more than blood. I mean, blood is... it's not really tasting well, but like, I can deal with that. Yeah, and all other cool stuff, so yeah. You don't think I'm boring? Thank you, I appreciate that. I feel kind of boring though, like my idea of a perfect night is like sitting home with a good book or a video game and just relaxing. I'm not really one for like going out and partying or hanging out with people a lot. Especially since I'm a huge introvert as well, so I get very easily drained being social, so yeah. Hell built up by the hands of man. Hell painted red with the blood of their brothers. The people armed themselves with anything they could find and went after the man. As much of a beast as he may have been, he stood little chance against such numbers. It is the fate of a beast to be exterminated by those he terrorizes. And once he was gone, the nun had no one left to protect her. She too was consumed by their frenzy. All that remained was an inextinguishable inferno. Hysteria and despair, madness and outrage, and no outlet for it. It sounds cozy? Yeah, it is. I really do swear, if your influence pulls me back into being a literature glutton, I probably do nothing but most likely. I mean, literature is the best. Honestly, seriously, I have a Goodreads account, and I think I have seriously over 200 books on my to-read list. I have probably around like at least 80 books that I have not read that are in my bookshelves. And I keep wanting to buy more books all the time still. Because I follow a lot of bookish people on like YouTube and Instagram, so I get a lot of tips all the time as well. So yeah, I have a problem. I definitely do. My mom and I were in the UK about, I think it's about 2 years ago, on vacation, and I bought more books than I bought anything else. I think I bought about like 7 books on that trip, and I still haven't read any of them. So yeah, I have a problem. And then I do things like this, reread my favorite stories instead of reading new stuff, so yeah. It was a revolt that made the slaves uprising at the Lord's manor look like a game. Eventually their rage found a new target, the Lord. It was only natural, for he was the true villain. He was the one who had given money and the witch's blood to the church. He was the one who had profited of it. And above all, people often resented those who stood above them, particularly in times of unrest. The city resounded with the cries for the Lord's head, and he looked down upon it all from the safety of the observation tower. He could do nothing but watch as his domain burned. I can only imagine how painful that must have been. But before long, having seemingly made his peace, he began descending the spiral staircase. He opened the door at the bottom, revealing himself to his people. But before the door had swung all the way open, before he had had a chance to say his final words, someone ran a blade through his chest. With that, the raging fury mostly settled down, but it was hardly the end of the destruction. Mere days later, a plague befell the city. Dreadful black spots covered the flesh of the infected. They writhed in pain, screaming and vomiting blood. Ghastly howls echoed through the streets, as though the whole city had been possessed. It became a cursed land. In their diseased haste, the people muttered again and again, "We have been cursed by the witch." In less than a week, the entire city was dead. My body was left abandoned at the top of the observation tower. And as if to seal the curse away, in their final days, the people shuttered all the windows, wrapping the house in darkness. It's possible. That was no miracle either. You can easily explain what happened to them. Locked away for so long in that dirty tower, maybe I caught some kind of a disease. And then, when the people drank my blood, they too were infected. Hardly anything out of the ordinary about that. The first to die, the girl, had already been ill. Her body merely chose the worst possible time to yield to her ailment. That was all that had happened. Indeed, it was nothing more than a fluke. Goodreads. Yeah, it's like a page for how to describe it. It's like a sort of bookish community. You can like follow people on there, both readers and authors. I mostly use it to track my reading, so I have like a list of all the books I want to read, so I can keep track of them, and then I kind of log the books that I have read. So, and you can make like challenges for yourself. I mostly use it for that. I put up a yearly reading challenge of how many books I want to read, and then I can keep track of it on Goodreads. So a bookish page to keep track of reading, find books, or make bookish friends if you want to. I'm very anti-social there, but I think you can like follow people and stuff, and you can make reviews and everything, so I like it. It's nice. Despite the Morgana suffering, you're somewhat glad that the blight spread from that? Yeah. Yeah. I kind of agree, actually. An improbable stroke of luck. An unbelievably unfortunate accident for the city and those 3 men, and an undescribably fortunate accident for myself. But I wish to believe it was a miracle, that even if my blood didn't have any healing properties, and even if I wasn't a saint, my wish, my curse, was what caused that uprising. That was my miracle, granted to me by God, or the devil. I choose to believe that, and that my miracle took on its true form thereafter. My curse had brought death upon the 3 men, but for whatever reason, my rancor was far from sated. They had died. So what? Death is but a transient agony. It's nothing compared to what I went through. So I made my next wish. I wished for their reconstruction. I wished eternal suffering on their souls. I wished to trap them in a never-ending cycle of pain and hatred. This was my wish for the flaxen-haired young man. He treasured his dear sister, and he desired a quiet life, so I wished for him to have just that, and I wished for his dearly beloved sister to love him more than anything in the world, for his world to be destroyed by love gone too far. This was my wish for the beast-like man. He was conscious of his tendency for violence, and he yearned to be more human, so I had his inner beast toned up just a little. I saw to it that he would never be human, so he would never have the peace he so desired. My wish for the Lord was more straightforward. He seemed to have great affection for wealth and authority, so I ensured those were the only things he could ever have. Who needs love or friendship when he could be drowning in power? Once he had lost everything, his solitude would be his only companion. Wishes can come true. As long as you always hold fast, never stop wishing, never surrender, they can come true. Eternal suffering on all their souls, an endless cycle of reconstruction and unavoidable tragedy. Tell me, my dear, do you sympathize with me? Will you curse them with me? Will you take my hand and revile them with me? You have too many friends who have a disdain for complex but grim tales, and I think this is probably one that makes me feel somewhat sorry for them the most. Yeah, I can understand that. I think that dark stories are not for everyone. I personally love them. Of course it depends. If it's like only darkness and nothing good ever, and it's basically like, I don't know, torture porn, then I'm a bit like meh to it. But if it's done like this in such a beautiful human way that it feels like this is actually something that could happen, then I absolutely love it. And I also like really dark stories that have like some sort of hope to it as well, because that really sucks you in, and that makes the happy and good parts the more satisfying, I feel. You love the curses of your wishes? Yeah, I do too. They are amazing, and it's again how the game just comes full circle, and how now we understand the first 3 doors, and I love how it all connects, because to be honest, when we find out that Michelle is like the main character and learn about his story, we kind of forget about the first 3 doors, because they feel sort of like stories we were told in the past and that they don't really matter anymore. But I really like how the game just comes back to them and like, hey, they are still important, it's still part of the whole story, and I really like that. Hope always remains just as important as a tale of despair does in driving it forward. Yeah, exactly. This time, when a body crashes into the tower stairs, I'm unable to make a noise. The obstruction is less mental and more physical. The excruciating pain. Ah! It's so intense I can't even eke out a scream. My vision is distorted, my mind thick with fog. I feel like I fall into a bottomless pit if I loosen my grip on my consciousness even slightly. Through the haze, I see my own severed left arm. Reflected in a pool of blood, I see my face, large chunk of flesh peeled off. Look at you, trying to crawl up those stairs like a worm. How pathetic. It's like I'm looking at my old self. I can barely form a coherent thought. I can't lament her inhuman fate. Can't mourn for her. Or be shocked by the revelation about the 3 men and her history with them. Pain. It fills every corner of my mind. Every nook and cranny of my body. You figured it out by now, haven't you, my dear? You'll never make it to me. It's not possible. But it's not your fault. It's not because you're weak. There's simply no one who can bear this pain. You're allowed to give up, to rest. There's nothing wrong with that. The pain, the crushing weight, it's miserable, isn't it? But all you have to do is turn back, and it'll go away. The witch whispers his sweet temptations. You put in a fine effort. There's no shame at all in throwing in the towel. Her voice is soft, gentle, pleasant, saccharine. Concede defeat. If I do, it'll all go away, the searing pain spreading from the stump of my left arm. The sensation of being perpetually drained of my blood. The miserable solitude of staring at a door that never opens. Also, that thing, her being trapped in the tower, I really like how that very much mirrors the white-haired girl's experience in door 3 of her being locked into the shed. I really like how those two things mirror each other. The laughter I can hear through the window. My miserable wailing and this maddening hatred. I can end it all. That's right. It would all be over. You have the power to make it stop. Make it all stop. No! I can't let that happen. No! I have to get her back. At my side. I'll do anything to take her back. Even if it means I end up 1,000 tiny scraps of meat. I will not give up on her for any reason. Death of glory for Giselle. Yeah. We need to save Giselle. Our best girl. You won't, will you? Oh, such beautiful resolve. Willing to sacrifice herself to save the girl. Like a hero of legend. Or maybe a fairy tale prince. No. I am no hero, and I am no prince. I am a human, an ordinary man. I don't have any extraordinary potential. I am not a courageous leader or a charismatic general. I'm just a regular man, in love with a regular woman, who refuses to lose her. I don't need any other accomplishments, only that. That's all I need, because I'm just a regular man. My one act of resistance. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how much you cut me up. Nothing changes. What I have to do. I have to take her back and set her free of this mansion. Nothing else. And never will I back down on that. I do like in some manners Giselle is like a mirror of Morgana, both sweet, both twisted by time, but Morgana took spite while Giselle cocooned. Yeah, I do like that too. This game really do like to mirror different characters and events with each other, and I really like that. It makes for good contrast and like showing us how to deal with like pain and trauma and other experiences in different ways, and that there are many ways to be human. I really like that. I love this story. It's basically a story about being human, I feel like, in many ways, and I adore that. Arms or no, as long as I can move, I must push forward. I must make my way to the woman who waited for me for so long. Up. To the top of the tower. Forward. Ever onward. You go, Michelle. Drag my bloody body, paying the pain no mind, and once more arrive at the top of the observation tower. I place my hand on the door, holding myself up with my lacerated right arm. Take a moment to catch my breath, then lift my head, gaze into the void, and shout her name. Morgana! I pity you. I truly do. You were a saint shackled with an unfathomable fate, and for that I am enraged. As I felt your pain, as I watched your life, I too felt a burning hatred for those 3 men. If you truly feel that way, then why can't you stay here with me? We're all dead anyway. We reached our ends. Do you honestly think there's anything more for us? There isn't. The end is the end. So what do you say the 3 of us, me, you, and Giselle, torture the 3 of them and everyone they cared about, make them suffer here for all eternity, in this house. I'm absolutely glad I found you. You are delightful in your own right, and you also introduced me to what might become my favorite tale too. Oh, thank you! You are so sweet, Quill. You really are super sweet. I do appreciate you as well, a lot. Thank you. And yes, this story is amazing. So I can understand it becoming your favorite tale as well, because it's absolutely mine. I can read it so many times and I never get tired of it, because I always find new stuff to enjoy in it and find more hidden things, and I love it. It's amazing. And that way, you and Giselle can be together forever too. That's not an option. Why not? Because hatred only brings you pain. Ha! Oh, that's brilliant. You spouting stupid platitudes at me. I can't believe my ears. Save your nonsense moralizing about how hatred does you no good. I won't hear it. I'm doing just fine for myself, my dear. In fact, I've never been better. I feel wonderful. Did you think that would be enough to persuade me? Really? Ah, how disappointing. And here I thought you understood me. Morgana, why don't you say what you really think? Go right on ahead. Hate them as much as you want. But keep me and Giselle out of it. Why didn't you just say that? I do feel bad, truthfully. For all the time we spent together, never once did I ask about your life. I was so focused on myself, and in the end, I pushed you away. That you did. You wanted to be with Giselle, so you pushed me out. I wish I had asked you sooner. It wouldn't have changed anything though. One puny man knowing what I went through would hardly be enough to erase the loathing I bear. It would have turned out the same regardless. There was nothing you could have done for me. There is nothing. Still, I would like to apologize. Had I known what you carried in your heart, perhaps I could have chosen my words better. Instead of rejecting you, I could have chosen some other response. I cannot remain in this house, nor can I allow her to stay either. So I would like to apologize for both my past actions and my present. Well, in that case, open the door, Michelle. I take another moment to catch my breath, and then I gather my strength into the hand on the door. Blood seeps from my fingertips, slowly trickling down the rough surface. It reminds me of my death. I'm coming for you. I push open the door, praying that it will be the last, that beyond it lies light for Giselle, and if possible, that it might cast a bit of light on Morgana's heart as well. What? However, why am I in my bedroom? What I find behind the door is the last thing I expect. Huh? Hi Fia, welcome! No worries. You are very welcome to be here. We have just learned about Morgana's past, very dark and gruesome, and now we are finally up at the top of the observation tower to save Giselle. As she appears from the shadows of my chambers, I can't conceal my surprise. Giselle? Is this another illusion, Morgana? No, it's not. I am the real me. Thank you for coming all the way here for me. She's thanking me. So why isn't she smiling? That was very kind and courageous of you, Michelle. I am deeply moved you would have such compassion, but not only for her, but for someone like me. But do you know what else you are? You're a worm. What is it this time, Morgana? What do you say we pull back the curtain, my dear? What curtain? There's one detail that hasn't yet come to light. This isn't your first return to the mansion, is it? You've been back numerous times, each time not remembering her, and each time hurting her even more. What are you talking about? What am I talking about? Oh, you know good and well, my dear. Or do you honestly believe that all the other pieces were in their rightful places, and you alone with some exception? I never. Tell me, how was it? Living in so many different eras, not knowing who you were, and playing with all the different men. No, you're out of your mind. You make it sound like I was... Not like, my dear. You are the white-haired girl. Enough! How could anyone possibly confuse me with her? To tell you the truth, I couldn't see you as anyone else. Your white hair, red eyes, porcelain skin, and your name. Tell me, what about you isn't the same? We're not the same person. I saw the letter. What? The one you had hidden. No. And you didn't think that was worth mentioning? No, Giselle. I didn't mean... You're exactly right, my dear Giselle. He deceived you. He kept a very important secret from you. Despite showing up before you multiple times, he cast you aside again and again. No. No, that wasn't me. It wasn't... It all makes sense now. Nothing you ever did was for me. Giselle, Come on, Giselle. Tell him exactly how you feel. Michelle? Don't. Please don't. Don't say it. Not that, please. I'm begging you. You're... Stop. Please don't, Giselle. Not actually. Please. Don't say it! I'm mad at all. Are you? You're disgusting. You're the only one who could have been, my dear. The only one who could have been the white-haired girl. The next moment, my whole world comes tumbling down. I could have borne anything. Losing my arm, having my face torn off. Any amount of pain, I could have handled it. For you, I could have done it. But this, hearing those words, coming from your mouth, being rejected by you, that I cannot. Those words, they bury me alive. And you're the one person I never wanted to hear them from. On one hand, I want to be super excited about guessing Michelle likes pee-pee, but on the other hand, this is too serious to genuinely enjoy it. Yeah. It's, it was a very... I was so shocked when I came to this part. I was not expecting it at all. I wasn't as smart as you were, Quill. I'm usually not smart when I read. I'm just really going for rights and being like, what? At everything. So I had not guessed it, and I was very surprised. But I think it's very cool because you don't see a lot of intersex main characters in stories. At least I haven't. So I think it's very cool that Michelle actually is intersex. Because I feel it's very rare, and I like that the story isn't even about him being intersex. It's about uh, all the other things that the story is about, and he just happens to be intersex. My god, I have said that word so many times now. But you understand what I'm trying to say, I hope. So yeah, I think it's a very cool detail with that representation. When I learned my father Antonin had passed, I wrote 2 letters, one to my brother and one to my mother. It was the first time I had found the courage to face my mother, to open up to her. I wanted to show her who I was, convince her that I wasn't cursed, so I could be myself when I returned to the capital with Giselle. Dear mother, there is something I wish to tell you, something that means a great deal to me. So I ask of you, please hear me out. And I ask of you, please accept it. Mother, I no longer bear any resentment for my present lot in life. Nevertheless, I would ask of you to concede one thing, that I was never cursed, that I was always your son, that I am Michelle, not Michelle. I have found someone I care for dearly, a woman, and I love her with all my heart. I would like to spend the rest of my life with her. I do not wish for much, simply to have a quiet life with her, to go through our days together, man and woman. That is the one thing I want. Mother, I know you are aware that my body is no longer female. I am a man. My heart is male, and I ask of you to please accept that. I have no grudge with you. In fact, I am incredibly grateful to you for bringing me into this world. With love, your dearest son. Shortly after sending that letter, I was killed. I am dragged down, against my will, into the darkness. Beneath me spreads my own past. My door. The door I swore never to open. But despite all my efforts to resist, the door sucks me in. Into a world I never wanted to see again. A history I never wanted revealed. A past I never wanted anyone to see. Nonetheless, the door opens. The 7th door. I think I want to keep going for a bit more actually, because I do have more time. So I think we should start Michelle's story at least and go for a little bit, because I think it's quite long if I don't misremember, so it would probably be good to split it up into at least 2 parts. But I'm gonna stand up for a bit because I feel like I am stiffening up here, so we take a short 1 minute break and then we keep going. So if you want to stand up as well or maybe get something to drink, you can do that. Uh, and yes, Michelle is now his sweet baby. Aw, he's my sweet baby too. I adore him. He's so sweet. Uh, and yeah, Giselle is best girl in many ways, but Michelle is sweet baby. I agree. I want to adopt them both. They are the best, both of them. But yeah, 1 minute break, so don't go anywhere, guys. Me is back. Sorry if my instructions were unclear, Quill. What I basically meant was please don't leave the stream, but you can like stand up if you want to. Sorry. I know I'm being weird sometimes. Alright, let's keep going. Let's explore Michelle's past. There were two things out of the ordinary about that baby. The first, its parents embraced, and the second, they wholly rejected. Although, it was some time before the baby's second peculiarity emerged, and until it finally did, no one was any the wiser. Not even the child itself. Its mother surely enjoyed that brief period of happiness, before her child finally realized the truth. Blind to the fact that the moment it had let out its first cry, everything came crashing down. To this day, she still doesn't know the child she gave birth to, that she set loose a curse upon the world. A curse that turned angels into demons, humans into witches. My God, look at that. She's beautiful, isn't she? Have you seen her laugh? Not yet, I haven't. I just hate seeing Antonin's name on the screen. That's how deep my hatred goes for that man. Like, just ew! Go away! I don't want you in my game. At any rate, that color certainly is something else. God's gift to us. No, she's an angel sent from heaven. An angel? Ah, yes. I can see it now, Lydia. Her white hair and almost translucent skin is beautiful. My, she opened her eyes. Maybe she felt you nearby. Do you like your father more than me? Is that it, sweetheart? Gorgeous, aren't they? Such a deep, enchanting color. Like two little jewels. Ah, that they are. A magnificent shade of red. I've never seen anything like it. And this is our child. She's special. I can feel it. We have to take good care of her. She needs a name. One that's just as special as her. Have you already chosen, Antonin? You were the one begging for a girl. You do it. Besides, I already had to rack my brain for the boys' names. Now it's your turn. Are you really going to let me? My, that's quite a lot of pressure. Name her after an angel then. Oh, I like that. Alright then. We'll call her Michelle, after the Archangel Michael. You'll grow up to be as beautiful as an angel, Michelle. I've always wanted a little girl. With her snowy white hair, skin so pale you could see the veins beneath it, and her ruby red eyes, she was a peculiar looking little girl, and her mother showered her with love. She truly believed her daughter was an angel sent from above, born as a human child. The blessed babe born a girl was given an angel's name. Michelle. Me. Checkmate. Ah! I see. That's what you did. Curses, I completely overlooked that. I thought you were advancing with your pawns, but that was all a diversion. You're too short-sighted, dear. You need to look at the big picture. Yes, she's adorable. Sometimes it's the tactician and not the soldier holding the sword. Haha, you got me. You're quite good at this, Michelle. What inspired you to take such an aggressive strategy? It was not inspiration. It was derivation. Derivation? Chess is in many ways similar to real war tactics. Ah, my military texts. You haven't read all of them, have you? I have nothing but time. Impressive. Even I hadn't read all the books in my room. You planning on joining the order with that kind of knowledge? You jest. You're the one who's going to be a knight, dear. That I am. War is the men's job, after all. I want you to be there to welcome me home. Didier! Oh, Didier! I'm in a bit of a bind, Oh, hello there, Michelle. I didn't know you were home, George. Just got back, yep. Oh ho ho, playing chess again, are ya? Let's see, what do we have here? Get away from the board! Yikes, you got trounced, huh? And you call yourself her big brother. As if you are any better. That's not funny, George. I cannot approve of someone who can't keep up with the flow of battle becoming a knight. Given our family's rank, you would eventually be put in charge of other soldiers. What, are you worried about me? No, I'm saying I'm blessed with such a caring sister. But fear not. I have a guardian angel after all. Yeah, they are adorable. I love their relationship with each other. It's really sweet. Where's the logic in that? Sorry to interrupt your moment, but does nobody listen to me? Now, don't pout. So, what seems to be the problem, George? Ah, yes. Listen to this. The royal court is holding a swordsmanship show, and for some reason I was elected to participate. How unfortunate for you. I can already see you on the ground sobbing. Hey now, that's just mean. Besides, my hands weren't meant to hold a sword. Look at these dainty fingers. They're covered in calluses. Dainty calluses! Tell me, why would I have an artist sword fight? That's the whole point, I would think. No need to get so worked up. No one's expecting you to win. Maybe not, but we have a name to worry about. And you know what that means, don't you? I'm going to lose, that's a given. But I want to do it in style. I feel bad for your sword. Oh, don't be like that. Now come on, time's a wasting. To the courtyard we go! Just so you know, if I train you, I'm going to train you right. All I want to know is how to look good. What is it, Michelle? May I watch? Fine with me, but you know you can't go outside. I'll be watching from the hall. I can open one of the windows facing the courtyard. Still, you need to be careful. You can't spend too much time in the sun. I know. I had two older brothers. The eldest, Didier, belonged to an order of knights who served the church. And below him was George, who served as a court artist. He was, in all likelihood, who would inherit the family estate, as knights were not formally allowed to own property. Nevertheless, the Bollinger family name was upheld by Didier. And then there was me, the youngest, the only daughter. Physically, I was not in particularly good health. Because of the color of my skin, I was hypersensitive to sunlight. I rarely left the estate. My world was contained entirely within these walls. And perhaps out of some sense of pity or compassion, my two brothers spent a good deal of time with me. Didier played chess with me, and George taught me how to draw. And among other things, they taught me how to read and write. For a girl, I was incredibly fortunate. The one thing I wasn't allowed to do, though, was hold a sword. While hardly anything unusual, it bothered me deeply. And it had for as long as I could remember. If I had been told I couldn't do it because I lacked the strength, I probably would have accepted it. But the reason given was not that I was weak, but that I was a girl. And with each passing year, that smouldering frustration in the back of my heart grew larger. Come on, put your back into it. Like I said, all I want to do is put on a good show. Oh, you put on quite a show, unless you learn how to swing that sword properly. Give me a break! Out in the garden, my two brothers traded swings bare-chested. All I could do, though, was observe from afar. And every time I found myself forced to watch, I felt a sharp pain, like a needle piercing my chest. A needle that seemed to be growing ever thicker. My mother and my brothers loved me dearly, but that didn't change the fact that the outside world lay beyond my reach. I was trapped in this state by my own body. At first I thought that was the root of my pain, but that answer seemed to contradict something inside me, something I couldn't explain, something I couldn't ignore even as a child. So I searched within myself, trying to find an explanation for the constant swelling sensation of wrongness inside me. Day after day, I gazed into the cavern of my own heart. My, now what are the two of them doing out there? George was asked to do a swordsmanship show at the royal court, so Didier is helping him. Swordsmanship? Oh, I just can't stand those shows. Blades are so dangerous, I can't watch people swinging them at each other. Why don't you come back to your room with me, Michelle? I would love to teach you how to sew. But Mom, I want to watch them practice. Michelle. First of all, you need to watch how you speak, young lady. You do not call me Mom, you call me Mother. This is what happens when you spend so much time around boys. As your mother, I don't approve of you playing chess or making art. A woman has no need for such skills. They would only make you look insolent. But I want you to grow up to be a respectable woman. That is my job and my dream as your mother. Now come. I would rather you looked at some fine embroidery with me than a couple of sweaty men. Yes, Mother. You are my little girl, after all. Spending time with my mother was agonizing. Was it because her world was so isolated? No, that wasn't it. Her gentle voice, the sweet scent of her perfume, the way she constantly told me how much she loved me, and her What is that word? And her diatribes about how wonderful it was to be a girl. Everything she did put so much pressure on me. But above all, she loved to say, "You are my little girl, after all." And there was nothing strange about that at all. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw the daughter of a noble. That was who I was. So the only thing wrong was how I felt. But every time I was faced with the reality of who I was, my heart wavered. I had no interest in learning to embroider. I didn't understand why that was necessary. I knew what purpose it served. Everything she taught me I would need when I was wed off to some noble boy, and it was my responsibility to learn those things. It didn't feel right, though. You hate both the parents? Yeah, same. I couldn't even accept the fact that one day I would be married. It was but an ominous shadow lurking in my future. I would have preferred ravaging the books in Didier's room than having a conversation with my mother. Tales of heroes of old and dauntless soldiers. Military texts written by tacticians in the midst of war. Thinking about them set my heart aflutter and made me think about my brother. He was training to be a knight. I envisioned armor flecked with rust, a long sword glimmering with the blood of savages. Soon as I found myself in my fantasies, imagining how the sword would feel in my hands, the sensation of the hilt beneath my fingers, swinging it gallantly, like my brother. How heavy was it? How much muscle would I need to carry it? How much impact would I feel in my hands when I struck something? How restricted would my vision be wearing a helmet? To be fair to her mom, having to learn to fight because you're expected to sometimes have to kill or be killed kind of sucks too. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, and it is different times, so I am giving her some slack because of that, but like, yeah, I don't like her because obviously I'm biased. I mean, Antonin I hate because we all know why we hate Antonin here. We don't need to say it. And the mom, well, she's making Michelle feel bad. She doesn't do it intentionally, but she does it, so we don't like that. And also, she's yeah, I have a lot of reasons why I don't like her. But she was not nice to Giselle either, and we have not experienced this whole story, so I'm not gonna spoil anything. But yeah, I don't like her. She is not likable. How much did it weigh? How hot was it inside? I had no way of answering any of those questions though. Kill me now. Oh no, what did I do? Okay, it's fine. I pressed a button and it terrified me. Ah. I have some cloth, if you would like to wipe yourself off. Oh yeah, thanks. Ugh, I'm so dead. You were at it for a long time. I never known Dee to half-ass something once it gets started. Which I guess is what makes him a knight material, but... Are you opposed to him becoming a knight? Well, you know, I kinda assumed he'd inherit the estate and handle taking care of everything. So it's like, why he's gotta go and be some priest whipping boy? Don't tell him I said that though. He wants to fight for the greater good. I don't know. Despite the name, he wouldn't be doing much fighting himself. Anywho, someone as passionate as him might be able to make changes for the better. Changes? He knows what condition the warrior is in. That's why he's joining. Figure you want to whip him into shape. Melt them down and reforge the whole thing. Huh. So he might be able to change things. What? What are you muttering about, Michelle? Hey! Whoa, hold it! The pain I felt in my chest when I smelled the sweat emanating from George's body, when I looked at his slender but distinctly male build, I was convinced it was admiration. Did I want to become a knight too? Maybe the discomfort I felt was because I wanted to be like him. Would it all go away if he were able to change the rules and I could join the order as well? I was positive it would. Didier! Michelle, hold on! You can't come barging into my room unannounced. I'm trying to change. We need to talk. I said stop. You're a girl. You can't just walk in on a man as he's changing. I see no reason for you to be so self-conscious. Listen to me, Michelle. George tells me you're planning to overhaul the order. He told you that? No, I hardly have such grand aspirations. Don't be coy. I believe you have what it takes to do it, Didier. What's gotten into you? You're unusually fiery today. So I want to ask you a favor. When you have enough influence in the order, I would like you to make me a knight too. You what? I'm tired of the way Mother treats me, always saying I can't do this or that because I'm a girl. I want to learn how to swing a sword. I don't want to do embroidery. I don't care about jewelry or fancy clothing. Michelle, what's gotten into you? I'm so much more interested in the world you live in, Didier. So please. Well, I'll be. I suppose we mustn't let ourselves spend too much time with you. Not you too! That's exactly what Mother said. First of all, Michelle, you don't have the strength to hold a sword. Then I'll train until I do. And if that doesn't work, I'll still have my mind. You know good and well I could. People are not chess pieces, Michelle. But Didier. But above all, you're missing the most important point. I will not for any reason become the kind of man who makes a woman take up a sword. Didier. This may seem normal to you, growing up with two brothers, but I want you to listen to me, Michelle. Men and women walk different paths. Men wield swords and fight against dangerous enemies, and they do so to protect the weak, women and children. I'm here to protect you and your mother. You're no different than her. You don't treat me any different than her. Honestly, what's gotten into you, Michelle? Why wouldn't I treat you like the daughter of the Bollinger estate? Your brother and I were never meant to make you think. Forget it. What? I'm sorry. I knew what I was asking was foolish. Oh? But I thought you would understand how I feel. Even just a little bit. What was I expecting him to understand? Even I didn't understand the things I felt. I wanted to know what had gotten into me far more than he did. What I had done was no better than throw a temper tantrum. Was I that desperate to become a knight? No. I had just thought that the key to the chains in my heart lay down that road, but ultimately there was nothing. Assuming Didier had agreed, and assuming I did become a knight, it wouldn't do anything for the core problem. As I dashed from my brother's room, I snuck a peek at him. His face was filled with intense perplexity. And how could I blame him? I had tried to push a dozen different ideals onto him at once. Filled myself with a vain hope that he would somehow be able to make sense of me when I couldn't even make sense of myself. And now, bubbling with unwarranted anger at being let down, I fled to my own chambers. I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been for him. It was the spring of my 14th year. Heavy clouds filled the sky, blocking out the sun, and gave me the impression of late evening all throughout the day. I for one preferred it when the sun wasn't out. Not that sunlight would kill me, but if it was bright enough, the whole world was so white I could hardly see a thing, which meant I could only go outside on days when the weather made most everyone else gloomy. As I was meandering through the courtyard, I spotted someone I had never seen before. A warm breeze blew past, sending up a swirl of flower petals. The girl's dress hung lightly over her frame, tracing her gentle curves. "Who are you?" I asked bluntly, and the girl twirled around, smiling. "My apologies. You just have such a beautiful courtyard here. I let myself in for a little walk." Long chestnut hair flowed over round feminine shoulders. It swayed slightly in the wind. The cloud of melancholy dissipated in the light of her smile. "You must be Michelle. You're just as pretty as I heard. And you are?" "My name is Amy. It's a pleasure to finally meet you." Finally meet me? What was she talking about? As I stood there, baffled by this strange woman, she stepped toward me, kissing me softly on the cheek. "I'm thrilled to make your acquaintance, Michelle." Her voice was like someone pouring honey into my ear, electrifyingly sweet. Yeah, it's Amy again. She's a returning character in our playthroughs, apparently. This Amy is better looking, though, than in Bloodborne. "I'm George's fiancée." And it also stuck another needle into my chest. She was a noble girl by the name of Amy Hubert. Sorry to all the French people watching that I'm butchering all these French names, by the way. It's probably not Hubert, it's Joubert, probably. Though only 15, she was the very image of refined, polished to a shine. No one had told me my brother was to be married. It came out of nowhere, and it seemed like I was the only one who didn't know. That evening, when the family gathered around the table for supper, Amy was there too, and they prepared an extravagant feast for the occasion. My father Anthony looked so proud of his two boys, Didier soon to receive his assignment, and George soon to be wed. The banquet proceeded smoothly. Not a doubt in the air that we were a happy family, but my mind was elsewhere. I found myself unconsciously chasing Amy with my eyes, watching the way those slender fingers gripped her spoon, the full lips parting to allow a piece of fruit in, the deep red tongue, visible for but the briefest of moments, the way all the muscles in her face seemed to relax in a bliss as sweet juices seeped into her mouth, the way she spoke, so soft and gentle, letting each sound hang in the air just briefly before intoning the next. She was distinctly feminine, in a different way than my mother. Apparently, Amy was going to be living at the Bollinger estate for some time. Mother was pleased to have another girl around. Or, more specifically, she was relieved to have found someone other than my brothers for me to spend my time with. I had assumed I would hate being around another girl. Surely she wouldn't be able to play chess after all. But for some reason, I felt much less suffocated around her than my mother. One night, Amy's family and an array of nobles from both houses' social circles assembled at the estate for a party. A din the likes of which I had never heard in my life filled the great hall. Everywhere I looked, there were people. Anyone feel like bow practice? Well, we'll see if we need to use the bow strat on this Amy as well. Servants scrambled every which way. Silverware clanged against dishes in an almost constant hum. Voices from all directions. I felt moderately ill. Hey Dee, I feel like we're critically short on waiters. This don't look good for us. And who was it who went about inviting everyone he came across again? Who are those people? They are artists, like me. I met them at the court. Let's see. We have some painters, composers, sculptors, troubadours, poets, writers, you name it. None of them have any connection to the Joubert or Bollingers. Sure they do. They're my friends. And you know, this is me and Amy's party. You can play with your friends elsewhere. I hope you realize we have a reputation to uphold. Off in one corner, several men, presumably George's friends, gathered in a circle. They stood out from the other aristocrats, both in appearance and the air they gave off. The clothes they wore, the embroidery hidden beneath their jacket cuffs, their manner of speech, the way they held themselves, they were, simply put, a far cry from the hard-headed Didier's ideal party guests. Even watching them from afar, it was clear my two brothers ran in very different crowds. The only reason headstrong Didier and free-spirited George were able to get along at all was because they were brothers. If they had been strangers, I doubt their paths would cross much, and if they did, those intersections would be quite rocky. Hey! Come here, guys! George's shouting voice pulled my preoccupied mind back to the surface. He summoned his friends, then led them to where I stood. What are you doing hiding in the corner, Michelle? I didn't even notice you. Allow me to introduce you to a few of my friends. Oh, no, George put his hands on my shoulders, peeling me off the wall and standing me in front of his male friends. My god, I can't read it. Why is it so hard? Socialization. My god, it didn't go very well, but I'm going with that. What's the last thing on my mind? I searched for Didier, hoping he would come to my rescue, but he was off trading pleasantries, facing away from me. Yeah, definitely tongue-tied. I don't know why it's so hard sometimes. Sometimes the tongues just twist, it feels like. This is my baby sister, Michelle. Be nice. George, I don't... Graces, your skin is even more pale than I imagined. It's like something out of a fairy tale. And why have you never brought her with you to the court? She'd sure be a hit. And how old are you now? 12 mayhap? Now, don't treat the lady like a child. I'll have you know she's 14. Yeah, sometimes it's just hard. I mean, even reading in Swedish, sometimes I get stuck on words, especially if I read for too long. So, yeah, it's hard reading in general. All the more reason she should be out there making friends. The whole court flip if they knew you had such a gorgeous sister, George. Don't be a brute, my man. Our little angel has to be kept inside for personal reasons. Uh-oh, sounds like I haven't been showing the lady her due respect. I've yet to even properly introduce myself. How rude indeed. Their laughs grated on my nerves. And so did the way George spoke as though I was his property. They looked like they were appraising me, which made me sick to my stomach. I had been paying enough attention to notice the man who asked if I was 12, and the rest of them too, examining me from head to toe in search of curves. I was indeed underdeveloped for 14, but what did that matter? I didn't want a body shaped like Amy's or my mother's. I really like that they are saying that he is underdeveloped, or that is how they are interpreting it, but really he's not actually female, so it's like his body, he has just not entered puberty yet, but he's not exactly underdeveloped either. Like, it's normal for a 14-year-old boy to be just skinny and, well, flat. So, now then, my lady, a proper greeting. The man got down on one knee before me. For a split second, I didn't comprehend what he was doing. Go on, Michelle. He's waiting, he whispered into my ear. That was when it all came back to me, the traditional greeting performed between a man and a woman. Come on, Michelle. Don't tell me you forgot what to do. I knew. I knew the process. I had that knowledge. Mother had taught me the rules, shown me the procedure. I was to present my hand to the man, for him to kiss. I guess they didn't really have the framework to think about it in another way. No, of course, they didn't know what intersex was back then. They definitely thought he was a girl, so for them it's nothing strange. But I just find that detail very good, I would say, because it has a perfect normal explanation. But yeah, of course they had no way of knowing what was going on. All I had to do was hold out my hand, but I was frozen. My body fought tooth and nail against a simple act. The thought of that man putting his lips on my skin sent a chill through me. Why? Why was this a traditional greeting? Why did I have to go through this? Michelle! But at the sound of George's frantic voice, my arm creaked up from my side. Then I remembered that despite being his friends, there was still mobility. As wanton as his social interactions may have been, he still had a reputation to maintain. And I understood that. I also understood that, as their sister, it was my responsibility not to do anything that might tarnish either of my brother's names. Also, by tradition, the man wasn't supposed to actually kiss the woman's hand. The proper way to do it required he simply mimic the act, rather than make real contact. That much I could handle. You haven't seen the full story, but from your limited scope of view, it presently seems like Michelle will be more trans than intersex. I still have more to learn of this tale. Yeah, it's, I think the maker of the game stated that he is intersex, so he, it will be more clear later as well, but he's, right now he's looking very female, but once puberty hits, that it will be more clear that he is male. But yeah, he is intersex, because I know the maker said so, and I think it gets more clear later as well. The man kneeling before me gave an uncomfortable chuckle at my reluctance, shrugged, and reverently took my hand in his. And then he pressed his lips firmly against my skin. There was a vaguely warm sensation on the back of my hand for the briefest moment. What do you... Reflexively, I smacked the man's hand away. George's eyes went wide in horror, and the man gave another playful shrug. I was merely offering you a greeting, my lady. Or is even that a new experience to you? Your innocence is truly precious. I was half a second away from throwing a barrage of insults, but I bit my tongue and stomped off instead. What? Michelle! Hey, come back, Michelle! I had spent all that time convincing myself I couldn't humiliate my brothers, but now I wouldn't hear a word of it. I had drawn a fair bit of attention, and other people tried to stop me too. But I brushed them all off, marching my way out of the Great Hall. Yeah, makes me want to vomit. Me too. That man is just disgusting. I really hate men like this. Like, ugh. I feel so dirty. You call that a greeting? No, that was no greeting. That was... I'll be taking that, I say, practically swiping a glass of water off a passing waiter's tray. With it, I washed my hand by the window facing the courtyard. But no matter how much water I poured over it, I couldn't erase the sickening sensation of his mouth on my hand. So I rubbed it with my sleeve until my skin was bright red. I wanted to feel something else. Anything else, even pain. Think before you act, George. What were you doing inviting people like that into our home? I was angry, and I had every right to be. He had not performed a proper greeting. Even in jest, he had no business actually putting his lips on my hand. It was not acceptable behavior for an aristocrat. He was a guest. He should have been ashamed. Was I angry because I had been disrespectful? No, that wasn't the reason. It was... That wasn't very nice of you, running off like that. At the sound of his voice, I couldn't turn back. I felt a sickening warmth almost directly against my back. The man from the Great Hall grabbed me by the wrist, spun me around, and pressed me against the wall. The bitter scent of wine wafted from above. What the hell are you doing? I tried a second time to get away from him, and that was when reality sunk in. I couldn't do it. All the strength I could muster wasn't enough to make the man's hand budge. My arms were locked in place. I didn't think he was especially strong either. He was hardly built like Didier. And still, I couldn't move an inch. You've got a tongue like a boy, my lady. But I know some people are fond of that these days. Can't say I mind myself. Let go! Had I always been this feeble? Were my arms truly so worthless I couldn't even escape his brute's grip? Why did I have to get stuck with his body? Now, just so we're clear, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm no monster, I promise you that. Then why are you holding me against the wall? Because I want a chance to try and woo you. I apologize if I made you uncomfortable back there, but the second I laid eyes on you, I knew you were a keeper. Then let go of me! But if I do that, you'll run away. And it's my personal rule to never let go of anything I like. Your brother says you can't go outside, so if I set you loose now, I might never get a chance to catch you again. I wanted to vomit. Me too, Michelle, me too. Apparently, taking my silence for approval, the man perked up and kept going. If you're not accustomed to being around men, then why not use this as an opportunity to get familiar? Oh my god! Dude! Ha! Not a half bad idea if I say so myself. And I think we get along quite well. Besides, I'm a minstrel. Spend some time with me and I'll write you all the songs you could possibly want. Get away from me! You really do have the most striking eyes. Makes me want to keep them all for myself. With a muse like that, I could write the most incredible songs you ever heard. I said get back, you creep! Huh, that's odd. That one's never failed me. This is beyond vile. Yeah, it's awful. The man brought his face just inches from mine and peered into my eyes. I could feel his hot, wine-stenched breath against my cheeks. It gave me the chills. I could not understand why this was happening to me. Panic and confusion had my heart racing. Go try your luck with someone else. I'm not interested. You will be soon enough, darling. You've simply never known a man's touch. Wow. I am speechless. He drew closer. He was already practically on top of me, but still he closed in. Closer and closer. The world faded out. I couldn't see anything. I could feel his rising body heat so near it made me nauseous. My eyes flung open, but there was nothing there. I could only feel. I couldn't move. My body wouldn't budge. In my mind, I kicked the man away, pulled my fist back and slammed it into his jaw. Again and again and again, until his face was unrecognizable. Again and again and again and again, I beat him. But reality would have none of that. Michelle! Hey, what do you think you're doing? 3 seconds, 10 seconds, longer. I had no idea how much time I had lost. But the next thing I knew, George had the man by the collar. I fell back against the wall, staring absent-mindedly as the two struggled. They traded blows, and they traded insults. Before long, they had drawn a crowd. While they went at it, I distractedly drifted away, and I only had one place to go. I didn't even bother to light a candle. I just stared into the darkness. My heartbeat was maddeningly loud in my otherwise silent chambers. What had happened? What had I done to me? Why couldn't I do anything? The last thing I wanted to do was cry. Tears would only serve to worsen my humiliation, only magnify how wretched I was, only make me more effete. I bit down on my lip, hard. I had no need for that trash on my body. I dug my nails into my arms. I had no need for that trash on my body. All of this, every last bit of it, that was why I was the way I was. I didn't know how to put it into words. I didn't know how to express this boundless frustration within me. But after enough wordless groaning, a single word slipped from my lips, and it felt incredibly right. God damn it! I knew good and well a girl should not be using such words. Even Didier and George would have gotten an earful from mother or father if they were caught saying that. Regardless, God damn it! It was the most fitting word I could come up with to represent even the smallest bit of my anger and loathing. I knew all I was doing was shifting the blame, that all it would accomplish was making me look pitiful. But I would take that over crying like a girl any day. I let loose a sigh that was halfway to being a scream, then started clawing wildly at my hair. I wanted to yank out every last damn strand of it. I didn't want it. I didn't want any of it. Any of this body. But in that case, what did I want from my body? Michelle? May I come in, Michelle? It was George's voice, slightly muffled through the door. The man who had invited those people into this house. I would be lying if I said I didn't hold that against him. Michelle! But at the same time, he had also come to my rescue. Besides, I hated myself the most. I despised myself for being so helpless. I'm sorry, Michelle. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's not locked. After a few moments of silence, George stepped into my room. Your hair's a mess, Michelle. And my God, you're bleeding. That was when I first noticed a stinging sensation in my lower lip. A metallic taste spread through my mouth. I had been biting it much harder than I realized. And there was a lot more blood than I expected. A trail of it was running down my shin, seconds from spilling onto my clothes when George wiped it away. I'm really sorry, Michelle. He can be a real ass when he drinks. Anne is a bit of a womanizer at that. I never expected he'd try to go after you, though. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. But, you know, there's a chance I might have, genuinely taking a liking to you. That just makes it worse! Sorry. You're right. You want to be with a man you like, I understand. He ran his hands through my hair, as if trying to calm me down, at the same time cleaning up the mess I had made of it. It made me feel like I was some kind of plaything. A joke of a doll. I don't want to be with anyone. I would never, ever be comfortable with a man putting his hands on me like that. However, I'm sure you'll find someone eventually, Michelle. Someone that feels right for you. I feel kind of awful for introducing you to him, but there are plenty of men in the world. You might not be interested now, but that'll change soon. Oh, I hate that answer. That answer is just so disrespectful. I know this is a different time and different era, but like, when someone says something, like, in my case, I have a lot of times said that I don't want any children, and there are so many people who just can't accept that. They are just, oh, but you haven't met the right person yet, it's gonna change when you get older, blah blah blah. And it's like, maybe, but maybe respect what I'm saying right now. Don't patronize me into thinking like it's not what I truly feel. Like, I know what I'm feeling, and it's the same thing here. Like, just, he's not feeling it, so don't say that, and especially not after this kind of situation. Like, seriously, the last thing on his mind is to be with a man. It's part of growing up. You'd be best off forgetting today ever happened. I was dead certain, but apparently that wasn't enough to convince him. The very idea that I might one day meet a man who I wanted to touch me made my skin crawl. Why? Why did I feel like this? Was I just not interested in men? No, if that were the case, I wouldn't admire my brothers' bodies. I didn't have an aversion to men. In fact, I enjoy spending time with my brothers far more than indulging my mother and her woman's world. What I couldn't stand was the particular look men would sometimes give me. But why? Why did I not like that? I had no answer. My thoughts were only going in circles. Are you okay, Michelle? He peered down at me, his face twisted in concern. But I couldn't answer him. How was I supposed to articulate this? My anger, my frustration, my irritation, my fear. I had no confidence he would understand. George, how's Michelle? Amy's voice came from the doorway. Inexplicably, I felt like someone had stuck their hand in my chest and was now squeezing my heart. Like I had just been caught in a compromising situation by the last person I wanted to see me. Oh yeah, she's doing good, aren't you? Yes, I'm fine. Glad to hear it. I was clearly lying, not even looking him in the eyes when I said that, but that seemed to have gone over George's head. Amy, on the other hand. You don't look fine at all, she said, a hint of pain in her voice, and then entered the room. George, Father was asking for you. He says it's time to bring the gathering to a close. You should get going. I'll stay here with her. Oh, is he? Alright then. Sounds good. Once the sound of George's footsteps had faded into nothing, Amy took a seat beside me and without warning wrapped her arms around my shoulders. It's much better to talk to another girl at a time like this. My heart leapt into my throat, but beyond the shock, I also found myself welcoming the warmth. It was pleasant, unlike the man's. That must have been terrifying. But don't worry, you're safe now. It wasn't really, no. No need to pretend, sweetie. If a man held me pinned against the wall, I'd be scared too. I mean it. I wasn't scared. I'm just disappointed in myself. Alright, I believe you. You're a strong girl, Michelle. There aren't many who wouldn't have been scared. I'll be sure to give George a stern talking to about his choice in friends. Something I learned today is that he's somewhat of a pushover. You're a lot more tenacious than I thought. As a woman in this world, you have to be. And if you're not, well, you'll figure it out soon enough, Michelle. Of course, even as strong as you are, I'm sure it would still be difficult to forget what happened to you today. George had told me to forget it as soon as possible, and Amy that I wouldn't be able to. Was it a difference in their individual perspectives, or was it a difference between the way men and women thought? I wasn't sure. As my head rested against her breast, a bit of my frustration slipped out. I couldn't move my arms at all. He didn't even seem all that strong. I couldn't believe that I was really so weak. That's just the way of the world, Michelle. Men are physically stronger than women, so we almost never overpower one. You're not any weaker than a normal girl. Don't blame yourself. Though it wasn't the consolation I had hoped for, the words still filled me with warmth. I had exploited my own weakness to her more of that soothing voice. And I alone knew how foolish I was in doing so. You don't want to see Amy break Michelle's heart? Yeah, I know. And I think this is where we're going to end it for today, actually, because look at the time. We have been going for quite a while, and I am starting to feel both stiff and hungry, so... But we did some good progress today. We are finished with Morgana's story, and we have begun Michelle's story, which is after door 5. It's my favorite one, probably because Michelle is my favorite character in all of this, so I just love to see his past. The reason I like door 5 more is because it has Giselle in it as well, and those two together are just the best, I feel like. But I do love this story as well. I mean, I love all the game, but if I have to pick my favorites, those two are my favorites. This was just scraping the surface, but we got to see a bit into how he's feeling about himself and his body. He's not really knowing why he's feeling the way he does right now. Still thinking that he's a girl, as he has been told his whole life. I mean, what is he supposed to think? Back then they didn't have transgender or intersex or anything like that. It was not a thing that was... I mean, of course they had those kind of things, but it was not well known. They didn't know what that was. And if someone, I guess if someone did come out in that day, they would probably be considered crazy or like a witch or something. So, you know, he's having a hard time figuring himself out, understandably. And yeah, this story is going to get a whole lot darker before we get to see Giselle again, that's for sure. Thank you for the lovely stream. Does feel like a lovely part to tie up today on. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. It has been wonderful to read this story for you. So yeah, I'm trying to think. Tomorrow, I'm going to put up my schedule today. Not sure when I will do that, but I'm going to put it up today on the community tab and on my Instagram. So if you want my schedule for next week, it will be there. But tomorrow will be a bit of a special stream, because usually it would be the house in Fata Morgana tomorrow, but since it's still the holidays, I want to squeeze out as much as I can out of it. So I'm going to start earlier than usual. It will be, let's see, I'm trying to convert time zones here. I think it will be 11 GMT. And I will do a Bloodborne marathon. I am trying to finish that game. So I will sit for, I want to say as long as it takes. I can't promise that though. I'm giving it 4 hours, and if I'm not done by those 4 hours, then we're moving on. 13 CET. Yeah, I think that's the same. 13 in Swedish time, but I think that's in GMT it's 11. But I think, yeah, 13 CET. So yeah, but I'm doing a Bloodborne marathon. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna defeat Lawrence. I am having Dudor help me with that, because I have figured out that no, I'm not doing that on my own. He's too tanky for me and not really fun to fight, so I figure if I have Dudor by my side and maybe even the NPC Walter, we can do it. And then I'm gonna try and beat Orphan and then Gehrman and the Moon Presence. So that's the plan for tomorrow. It's gonna be a long stream, probably gonna have to take a break in the middle of it as well. We'll see. Or it goes by really fast. We'll see. I'm giving it max 4 hours at least. But I hope that it might go by faster than that, because my body is gonna break. You expect 3 one-shots done in 15 minutes? Who do you think I am? I am not good at the game, especially not when I'm streaming it, my goodness. But we'll see. So that's the plan, and then I think I will probably do the house in Fata Morgana on Thursday then instead, so we switch the days for them. But yeah, as I said, I will put up the schedule so you don't have to worry, but then you know at least that it would be a little bit of a special stream tomorrow. But yeah, I don't have anything else, I think, so I'm going to go and make myself some lunch because I'm quite hungry. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and all of those of you who are not subscribed, please do that because it will help me a lot. If you like this, of course. If you don't, then that's fine. But yeah, yeah, see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Bye!